Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and I just want to share a little gratitude for everybody who's supported this podcast, and whether it's by listening or subscribing or sharing, talking about it, or even participating as a guest. This has started out as a labor of love, and it continues as such. But fortunately, the show's actually standing on its own 2 feet now, and the subscriptions are at least paying for the price of producing the show and allowing us to produce it in a higher standard. And so I'm super grateful for all of that. And if you're interested in participating as a guest, I would love to hear your story. I'd love to talk about your journey to health, whether you're a patient or somebody who is made some discoveries along the way. Maybe you've got questions. Maybe you want to do an online consultation live. We haven't done that yet, but maybe that would be a good podcast. Practitioners, physicians, authors, there's a place for all of it. I believe that having a robust conversation about a topic such as healthy living brings us to answers, real answers, truthful answers, not just one person, with one point of view, one set of experiences, or, one company trying to promote one product or idea or service. So if you're interested in participating, you can either respond through whatever the platform that you're listening to. Generally, there's a place to leave a comment. You can put up a review. That would always be wonderful. Or reach out, grumbinejoe@gmail.com. I'm pretty sure that's in the show notes. If not, I'll make sure that it is. And, so let's schedule an interview. So today, I want to talk about habits, especially building habits. So it seems that we are in a constant state of habits and ruts, and more often than not, they tend to be negative or unhealthy habits, whether it's scrolling in your little square box, or eating junk food, or gossiping, or staying up late at night doing stupid shit, or drugs or alcohol, or bad eating habits, whatever. It's so easy to fall into a negative habit, a habit that has some kind of a rut. And I want to talk about building good habits. They say if you repeat an activity for 21 days straight, that you start to build the neural pathways that will cause a habit to exist. Now, how do you get yourself to do that, though? There's straight up willpower and discipline. Hey, if you've got it, use it. You can just decide to make a habit. You can, how many of us do that in January 1st with our New Year's resolutions? I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to run a mile every day. I'm going to whatever, insert good habit there. And a week or two into it, there's always that reason that, well, maybe not today, or maybe I'll just do halfway. The second you compromise that repetitive motion, you undermine it, you give it less value. And yeah, we can always make those choices and get back to it. That's the one good thing, that's why I've never been a big Alcoholics Anonymous fan, even though I know it helps a lot of people. The crutches are too easy to turn into excuses, I think. However, use what works. That's my answer. That's what I'm doing in my health journey, is if it works, I'm doing it. And that's what I'm trying to share here. So I did a little bit of research, not just my own personal experience, but I'm going to look at different possible solutions and ways to start a good habit. So, I'm an old school guy. A lot of times stay with the old school ways, man up and just do it. But I'm gonna jump into some more modern applications and technological tools. And so, as much as I have negative um, experiences or feelings or impressions about all the technology we rely upon, I find myself relying upon it as well. I'll use AI a little bit to research a topic sometimes, or I'll use my GPS instead of a map, or relying on my knowledge of the lay of the land, or these things. We're using apps more and more. I try not to rely on any of these too much, but there are some good ones out there. So I want to start out with a little bit of technology as far as tools go. So there are some apps out there that track habits, and I think that's a lot of what is required to create a habit is to be accountable. So when I started losing my weight, I made a habit of weighing myself at the same time every day. And no matter what, when I get up, do my business. And so, I have this pretty accurate record of my weight gains and losses, monitored basically from the same spot each time, and paying attention to that. And it's been helpful. I was able to create a benchmark of where I'm willing to go above or not, and where I'm willing to go below or not. I've had to deal with both of those, especially with my cancer journey. I never thought I would have to deal with a low weight acceptable level, but I came up to it, and I had to acknowledge it. And it came from the same thing, from that recurring habit of weighing myself at the same time every day. Now that's just me doing it. There's nothing tracking it, but there are habit tracking apps. And there's one called Habitica, and it turning tasks into like a game. There's Habit Bull, allows you to track multiple habits at a time and be able to visualize your process. There's another one called Strides. It's got all kinds of features and reminders for different kind of goals. And then there's Loop Habit Tracker, kind of an intuitive, more straightforward habit tracker, and that's just to track the habits. There's also productivity and to-do list sort of apps. There's to-do list, Trello, Microsoft To Do. You can even use things like Outlook, or even your calendar, and just set reminders. These are all simple deals. There's also mindfulness and reflection tools. There's little diary programs, the Dailyo, Streaks, Reflectily. These are all, apps that can help you uh, do things like Reverie with an accountability. Um, and then nowadays, there are so many ways to find things like motivation and inspiration to cause us to find a habit, or to solidify a habitual practice. You can go to something even just like Pinterest, and set up a board that reflects the thing you're doing, or quotes, or put up like a vision board. Those are you can do it electronically on something like Pinterest, or old school. I think it's a great activity to sit down with your construction paper and cut out magazines, and drawing pictures and make that vision board. I have a big artist pad that I use not often enough, but when I do, I look back and I see the progress. Every time I create a new vision board, I look back at the last one I did and I say, wow, look at that. Look at how far I've come. And a lot of that has to do with being accountable and setting goals and creating habits as a result of those things. Putting your goals in front of you is a tool that will help you to accept them and create practices that will ultimately become habits. For me, I have a simple weight and measurement. I have goals, and that's the first piece. And then I have a scale. It's a visual scale, a mental scale, and I place the thing that I'm looking to do on the scale, and it either helps me get to my goal or keeps me from it. And if I'm on my track and I'm doing what I should be doing, I stay with the things that are helping me get to my goals and avoid the things that are keeping me from them. I think it's a tool I learned from a spiritual practice I studied many years ago, and it was a great tool. And, I take bits and pieces from the journeys that I go on. And if I see something that works, I try to repeat it. That's another measurement. Does it work? Is it helping? Um, Goal or not? Is it something that's good that I'm seeing what I want to see out of it? Well, so keep doing it. Is it doesn't seem to work? You got two choices. Make a modification to it, keep trying a little bit more, or let it go, do something else. So these are all tools that you can use. Things like YouTube, you can set or even what do you call it? There's a Google program that you can track of keywords. There's all kinds of places, but YouTube's great because you can set up your own playlist and you can create a search for different types of content. Maybe it's motivational speakers. Maybe it's fitness persons. Maybe it's somebody that is going through healing themselves of cancer, some other disease. Maybe it's an addiction group or something like that. These are amazing tools that are out there, and you can find endless sorts of information. There's podcasts. So hopefully you would find this podcast something that's worth following because it will help you find your way to health and find your way to good answers. If not, there's lots of other podcasts that maybe you'll find yourself more aligned with a different one. Hey, find what works for you. That's the key to this whole deal. Um, the physical tools I'm probably the most aligned with. So things like journals, and you can create specific journals for specific projects or general journal. I think journaling itself is a habit that if you can get yourself into and make it important, can be one of the most beneficial tools you could ever have, the best habit you can have. You can create, they have habit tracker journals. Geez, we live in this world where whatever it is, if you can think about it, it's probably already been made. And, if you type in a search tools to build good habits, you'll find tons of things, even just that, using your AI to go find these kind of answers. Yeah, not saying that any of these things are bulletproof. I'm just saying, just like everything in this podcast, all the answers, find your way, find the thing that speaks to you in the best possible way. Things like stickers and charts, I think, are cool. Again, vision boards, any type of there's a tool that I've used, and I recommend it to people, and it's kind of like a vision board, but you can do it with words, we can do it with pictures, but the idea is to describe your perfect life in the greatest detail that you can. And instead of saying, this is what I want, you see that it's already happened. And you say, this is what it'll look like when I'm at my perfect life right now, the way I see it. Here's what I have. And I tell you what, I've done that a few times. And when I do it, it works. In fact, so well that one time I did this, I don't know, probably 30 years ago. And it came out of the the advice of a mentor. And I've only had a few mentors in my life, but this guy had some really good advice for me at that time of my life. And he gave me this tool, and I used it. I ran with it, and I drew this map, and hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber only episodes that we offer to the supporters. And for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you. I don't know. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago, but I look back at this tool that I had written, and son of a bitch, everything that I put down had happened. And they were not little things. They were things like at the time I wrote this, I was recently divorced and single, and I wanted a stable relationship, a family. I wanted that. At the time, I had lost my home, and I was living in an apartment, and I wanted some land again. I wanted to own a home and have a land. I wanted a business where I did the things that um, came natural to me. Just all these pieces. And then, several years later, I went back and I looked, and no shit, if I hadn't checked off everything on that list. And I didn't even look at it again after I wrote it. I wrote it and I put it away somewhere. So these are tools. Vision boards can be powerful, especially if you do them regularly. Create a marker maybe 4 times a year and revisit your vision board. And don't look at the old one until you've made the new one. Make that new one first, and then go back and look at the old one and see where you've come from and see what's changed. So these are all good things. Community is powerful. Um, Finding people that share your goals and experiences. So for me, in my journey to heal myself from cancer, I have found a number of groups. Dr. Hoffman's group, which there's a link in this show notes of this podcast. I found Mark Simon's group. He has a website called Nori, and I found that group to be very interesting and informative. And some of the people on Dr. Hoffman's group are in Mark Simon's group. That's great. We share these common experiences, remind each other of things that we've learned. I found a Facebook group of people that are going through or have gone through squamous cell carcinoma, just like me. And this has got over 1,700 active members around the world. So I'm seeing this wealth of experience that is my experience, and it's helping me solve problems that are unique to my experience. There's all kinds of Facebook groups, meetup groups, you name it. There's all kinds of places to find people that are like-minded. It doesn't take much effort, but again, go to your AI, your Google, and search these sorts of things, and you'll find them. Creating your own small group is huge. especially for being accountable. So if you find, some workout buddies, if your goals are to get healthy physically, well, then great. Find some people that share some of the same goals. If you're running, if you like to run, then find some running buddies. If you lift weights or do yoga, Pilates, whatever is your poison, find people to do that with that share your goals and hold each other accountable. That's kind of the whole practice with AA is you have sponsors and people that share their experience and you hold each other accountable. That part of those kind of programs I do support. I think that's important. All the rules and regulations I'm not so keen on, but that part of it I think is powerful. So connect yourself with people, a person or people that you share goals and values with and hold each other accountability. Um, Things like time management tools can be very helpful because I think a lot of times the thing that keeps us from keeping a good habit from developing is we never have time because we're busy with all of our bad habits. We're busy scrolling, we're busy watching the videos, we're busy yapping and gossiping and doing all the stupid shit that take our time. And we don't make the time to do the things we really want to do. And so managing your time can be powerful. You'd be surprised how much time you can clear out when you prioritize and actually start being accountable for the things that you have time for. Because frankly, you're the only one that decides that. So if you go, well, I don't have time for this, well, why not? What are you doing instead? And, things like screen time monitors, they're important because it reminds you, hey, look at that. Yesterday you spent 8 hours on the friggin' screen. What were you doing? If you're doing research and important stuff, then great. Acknowledge it, own it, use it as a tool. If you're wasting your time on stupid shit, well, maybe you could have done something better with it. Own it as well. So this is all good stuff. There's drastic measures like behavioral change techniques. I mean, things like holding yourself accountable, giving yourself consequences. You say to yourself, well, if I do this, and I manage to do it for a period of time, I give myself a reward. If I don't do it, maybe you give yourself a consequence. Maybe you're able to be disciplined enough to do something like that. Um, there's extreme measures, things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. There's all types of energy work, hypnosis, self-hypnosis, affirmations. There's all kinds of things you can do to cause your behavior to change. But I think the most important thing to do is to own it, to make the decision, to say out loud, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. I'm doing this because I want to. Own it. And so many times we make excuses for why we did something or didn't do something. Well, you made me do this, or I did it because of this. No, no, no. Own it. And if you can do that, you'd be surprised how many things you'll start to do that you set out to, because there's nobody. It's like that Zeppelin song, nobody's fault but mine. And if you can own that, well, guess what? You're just making choices. And you come to realize that, yes, you're just making choices. So, get out there and start making some good ones. Habit stacking is another little tool. Um, that can get you to a goal. So if you think about it, you go, well, I want to be healthy. I want to lose weight. So I'm going to start eating better. Okay, cool. Maybe you do a series of things to eat better. Maybe you cut the sugar out. Maybe you cut the processed foods out. Maybe you start growing your own food. Maybe you start, choosing to make your own food more and being mindful of the ingredient, on and on and on. Label reading, sourcing your food, all of those things. But stacking these habits can sometimes make it easier. It's like chunking a big task out into smaller tasks. And when they overlap and feed each other, you say to yourself, well, I'm going to start intermittent fasting. Okay, well, great. When I get off my fast, I'm friggin' hungry. What am I going to eat? And then you go, okay, well, remember, we're not eating this, that, or the other thing, or we are eating this. You just stack these habits and you'd be surprised how powerful that can be. Or even things like timetables, like say, well, every day I make coffee. Every day I go and I take a dump in the morning. Every day I brush my teeth. Every day I tie my shoes. Whatever is you're already given. Well, attach a habit to that and say, well, you know what? Every time I'm sitting on that toilet, I'm gonna set the timer. I'm gonna meditate for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever. Give yourself something that's attainable. After I brush my teeth, I'm gonna drink a big glass of water. Whatever. You can stack these things any way, but I think it can be a powerful tool is to attach one good habit to another. Um, there are lots of good resources. There are lots of good speakers, tools, authors. Here's a couple of just off the cuff. There's books, audio books, physical books, workshops, um, seminars. There's so many tools of reinforcement and being told what to do by people who have done it. There's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. These are all good resources, but there's so many, and maybe looking at your goals and finding a resource that's more tied to your goal in particular than just setting the habit might be better for you. There's online courses. There's just so many great resources. So I don't know. I think that we've touched on a lot of good ideas. Just remember to create a good habit. It's going to probably involve a combination of tools. It's going to involve consistency. It's going to involve self-awareness. It's going to involve commitment. It's gonna involve accountability, motivation, and all of these things. So go after a big goal. Start small. The hardest step is the first step. The second hardest step is the last step. Be patient with yourself, be willing to make adjustments. If you screw up, pat yourself on the back and say, all right, well, let's get up and do it again. Quickly. Don't give yourself time to fall into another bad habit. Be willing to adjust, and as you're working towards a goal and creating a good habit, you're going to get to know yourself better, and you're going to learn how you respond better. And remember, the things that I do may or may not be things that will work for you. I'm just sharing my experience with you and invite you to come on the show and be a guest and do the same. So I think there's a lot of good information here. I want to thank everybody who has supported the show once again. And if you think this is a good show, tell somebody about it. Make a post, share this somewhere. Those are things that really let me know that you matter, or that this work that we do matters. And really, if you want to go deep, you can subscribe for as little as $3 a month and access some really personal, private content, and more to come. So thank you to everybody who's been a part of this show, and we will see you next time.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right, well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.